Welcome to a special July 1st edition of ADP Chasing. Today we'll be going deep into wide receiver depth charts across all 32 NFL teams to try to find this year's Puka Nacua. And if we fail at that, maybe at least we'll find this year's Dontavian Wicks. Let's do it.
ADP chasing is for when you watch ship chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually, back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes. All your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man. What's up, guys? Good to be back after missing last week's show. I thought maybe last week with me gone, things could maybe start more on track in ADP chasing. And already by the 5-minute mark, you were breaking down Blake Bortles' NFL career. So it's good to see
that was perhaps
last week.
the highlight of the summer. I was going to say that might have been the best analysis we did on the show.
Easily.
Yeah. I Levis pilled myself. I've been making it a point. I've been making it a point to get Levis since having that conversation.
I love it.
It did convince me. I mean, also just watching Will Levis last year, you can't deny he just absolutely smashes the QB aesthetics.
Yes, test. Which matters. That matters.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He's big. He likes to throw deep. He's going to throw a lot more this year.
You guys are both professional fantasy football analysts. Could you even name who the backup quarterback is in Tennessee? Truly, could you without Googling right now?
It's Mason Rudolph.
Oh, it is Mason Rudolph.
It is Mason Rudolph, which is to say this is not even a Marcus Mariota backup quarterback situation. The bench risk on Levis is so low, so low.
Yeah,
it is very low. Yeah,
it's almost impossible. I mean. Yeah, maybe you could argue he has higher injury risk.
They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. And anytime they're going to Mason Rudolph, it's a lost season. He was so bad that it's he was Zach Wilson. It doesn't matter. You already lost the bet.
Very, very good points being made here on this program.
Yeah. So we'll try to keep things a little bit more on track today. The plan, like I teased in the intro, there's not really much news with risers and fallers. We'll hit that quickly, and then we'll get into sort of ambiguous wide receiver depth charts across the league and try to, pick out spots where maybe there's some under the radar rookies or second year players that we can perhaps target. But let's quickly start here with risers and fallers. Just a couple guys I wanted to call out here. Again, you look at all the change in ADP, there's only 3 guys that have more than a 3% movement in ADP. That's a sign there's basically nothing happening. Even
how much does the market just hate Stefon Diggs that he's in this environment falling as a wide receiver?
It is crazy. It is in BBM2, Diggs would have been a 7th round pick.
Is he sleeping with underdog drafters' sisters?
The Barkley change, by the way, I think this is exclusively because there's only virgin drafts happening right now. It's only puppies and 10-second clocks, and those are the last people on earth that want to take Saquon Barkley. So I would not be surprising to me if they don't do any niche contests for 10 days and he rises.
I love that the puppy 2 filled in 8 days, and that fact is not even close to the most virginal activity that's occurred in the last few weeks.
No.
Yeah. The dumbest thing, we can get to Barkley in a sec, but the dumbest thing to me with the Diggs thing is you look at this next chart here and Cooper Kupp is up once. What is the pro Kupp argument but anti Stefon Diggs? Anything that you can say about Diggs with age risk, injury, etc. Kupp just has that. I want to refute this analysis because Cooper Kupp played quite well last year to the point that in the 12 games that he and Nacua were both 100% healthy, they got the exact same amount of targets, or one of them got one more than the other one. I don't remember which, but but Diggs' yards per route run was better. His targets per route run was better. Like basically, PPR, like we just want to go fantasy points per game. That was better. Like, I don't know. Yeah, Kupp didn't play horrible. I'm not saying he was like terrible last year, but I don't know. Maybe it's people just saying like Stefon Diggs' first half of the season doesn't exist. Because you look at his full season long stats last year, like 27% targets per route run. Like, it's not like he had a bad season. Like Kupp's down at 23%. So I don't know. I'm not seeing like the rationale for putting Kupp over Diggs. Personally, I guess the target competition argument.
The target competition is so much better for Diggs than it is. I mean, there's no tight end that's going to draw targets on the Rams. The Texans have 3 good wide receivers, not 2. The Texans have a competent pass catching tight end. I mean, that's a guy who earns 80 targets, not 40. And they have like the one thing Mixon can still do is catch swing passes effectively. I mean, that's like the one thing left that he has to offer. It's a bigger pie. It's a better pie in Houston, but he is going to have a smaller piece of it than Kupp will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not bearish on Kupp. I don't like the framing where we have to argue between Diggs and Kupp so much because I think Kupp's a pretty good pick. Like he was awesome 2 years ago. He was banged up this year. It's a very, very condensed offense. The situation is super stable. He's got good quarterback play. He's got great coaching. The fact that Kupp and Nacua together are both really good should, like, I think probably help each other. It removes some of the really, really, really high end.
The target cliff, as Rotopat would say.
Rotopat was right about the target cliff. We got to be honest.
Come on,
like, dude, like let's be real.
What now? Puka got too many targets. Like,
Puka's hitting the target cliff.
Okay,
next
so
year.
he's
also you are Sam. You are totally burying the lead here, which is the long history of 30-year-old wide receivers changing teams and going to 0 immediately. Like how many guys could we name just playing remember a guy who changed teams at 29 or 30 and then we like never heard from them again?
I guess so, but I feel like that narrative's kind of like changed a lot in recent years. Like, I don't know, DeAndre Hopkins changed teams.
It's changed because really good wide receivers don't get to free agency anymore.
Yeah. Like, I think if it happens via trade, I'm not nearly as worried about the wide receiver changing teams thing, I guess, as like compared to a team just letting a guy hit free agency and say, we don't care if you sign somewhere else. I think the Diggs situation is a little bit different. That has to do more with locker room vibes and other things behind the scenes. So I don't know. Like, yeah, I agree, Pat. It doesn't have to be.
He's not a fun click because you're like, all I care about is the end of the season, right? Like that's why I'm, making these picks, right? I got to have them score a ton of points at the end of the season. Well, Diggs is maybe not going to be all that popular by the end of the season. So just like it makes you a little nervous. I think he's a good pick though. Like I'm going to end up with a lot of Diggs.
I'm going to end up with
a lot of Diggs. Like in an environment where wide receivers are flying off the board and we're like wide receiver upside's never been more expensive. Like this dude has been very good for his career. He was good last year. I agree with your point that, over the course of the whole season, he was pretty good. He goes from Josh Allen, that stinks, but he lands with CJ Stroud, which is amazing. This is an offense that supported spike weeks for players popping up kind of randomly. Noah Brown went off for a couple weeks. Like Diggs can go nuts for a couple weeks in this offense. Like it doesn't seem like an offense that's designed to just kind of run through Nico week in, week out.
No.
So can I make a counter that might be persuasive to some people listening to this? Cooper Kupp has the most half-point PPR points in one season ever.
No, I refuse to frame this as Kupp versus Diggs.
Well,
I like
the thing about that, Crane, is that's a choice now, right? Like that's a choice.
Well,
that a lot
it's
of people
a
have
choice.
to make.
The choice is don't draft Derrick Henry. Is honestly how we do this. You can get both. It's possible to get both.
Sure.
I
but
have
I'm just
a lot
saying,
of both.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I am pretty clearly Diggs over Kupp. I don't know. It is simplistic, and I do get that Kupp flashed the upside.
I'm at 8% Kupp and 17% Diggs. So
yeah,
you can do it. You don't have to go light on Kupp.
I wonder my numbers.
Yeah.
I am 19% Kupp, 1% Diggs.
Whoa. Okay. So this isn't a Kupp thing for you. You're out. You're just out on Diggs.
I am not as much of an aggressive piss wide receiver guys. Like I do almost no 5 wide receiver starts, so I'm a little bit more choosy.
Let me tell you, they are fun. They are very
no,
fun.
I agree that. Well, I like the elite onesies. I mix
in a tight end.
I'm jamming the elite onesies way above the field. Like if I did my combinatorial Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Richardson exposure, or Kelsey, Andrews, whatever, it's very high. So I just have less digs naturally because I have Cup ahead in my rankings, so I take Cup.
Which I can understand, but I don't know. I think, like, I mean, what are you on Cup?
19%.
Okay. So we're not that far apart on Cup versus
I've
Diggs.
got the beach towel.
Yeah, you have this little beach towel. You could find another 7 in there. I think you could. I'm doing, when I say the 5 wide receiver starts, it's not so much that. It tends to be through 7, 6 wide receivers and a tight end. That start is pretty fun because it allows you to then hit the pocket of running backs coming up. As long as you can take care of quarterback, you're in really good shape.
I think this is my opinion. One, I really like Sam's whatever we call it trinomial wide receiver idea, where you just jam 3 elite wide receivers in the first 4 rounds, and then you do the elite onesies, and you get 1 running back that you really like. I really like that strategy. The other thing is,
you could almost do like hyper fragile with that because you're
with that.
Yeah,
but it's hyper fragile wide receiver almost. You could do 7 wide receiver teams if you do that. If you do that and then you get Rashee Rice and Christian Watson,
that's
you could
good. Yeah.
You could do some cool shit.
Yeah, that is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like those builds a lot. You take 3 in the first 4, grab 1 more in like round 7 or 8, and then wait it out and grab your last 4 wide receivers, hopefully correlated at the end. I do occasionally do like the 5 wide receivers through 6 thing as well, depending on how the board falls to me. But I do think there's some extent where you want to take advantage of teams. Yeah. Really? I don't love them as much as
you can get well, and this might be a personal problem because if I'm doing that, it probably means I have 2 Chiefs wide receivers. So it probably means I've got 2 of Worthy, Hollywood, or Rice. But that also probably means I don't have Mahomes. So I'm leaving myself with smaller back doors to figure out.
Well, yeah, because you built it with the Chiefs. But if you built it with not the Chiefs,
but if I built it with Jaden Reed and DeAndre Hopkins,
if you set up stats later in the draft, it's much easier.
Let me tell you, if what you need to win this year is Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Kyron Williams, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, things are looking up for me. If that exact combination of players is what you need, it's going to go well for me, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the meat of today's show. Actually, sorry, one more riser I wanted to hit on. You know what? Sorry, I can't contradicting myself again. We'll talk the Patriots wide receiver depth chart later. So I'm going to skip on the Pop Douglas discourse for now.
Really? I mean, he's not really a Puka candidate, I wouldn't say.
Well, he's a second year. Okay. I guess the point of today's show is to
he's a Puka candidate.
Is he? All right, we can talk about him later.
Yeah, I think let's broaden the scope a little bit, Pat. Okay. I think what I want to talk through here is wide receivers, going at pick 150
the
and passing.
8 wide receiver sleepers you need to win your league. Exactly. That's a good title for the show.
I thought we were talking about specifically day 3 wide receivers drafted by the Rams.
We could get an hour out of that show.
Yeah, that could be.
We probably could. I believe
probably could. Oh man. So let's start here. So to kind of get the list of teams that I wanted to talk through here, I basically split up all NFL teams into different categories. And there's a lot here, but the gist of it is I kind of wanted to eliminate the teams where the fantasy market is telling us there's 3 or 4 really good pass catchers on these teams. So if you look at the far left column here, Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Buffalo Bills, Texans, all these teams have 4 pass catchers going in the top 100 or 120 picks or so, right? These aren't really teams where there's a lot of extra room at the end of the depth chart to find deep sleepers. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have teams like the Patriots and the Chargers where, outside of Lad McConkey on the Chargers, all of these guys are going really late. the market really has no idea who the top wide receiver is going to be, or maybe, the top wide receiver in Ladd McConkey's case is really unproven.
Will you guys indulge me on the Packers for 1 second, though?
Bo Melton?
Depends.
Bo Melton.
Oh, wow.
The chance of Bo Melton being this year's Puka is like sub 0.003%, but it's just enough that I think he is draftable on Underdog and DraftKings. Like, yeah, 97% of the time he is never cracking your lineup, but like they are committed to the bit. They are extremely committed to the bit of rotating their wide receivers. That they played 6 wide receivers in a playoff game that they won. Christian, like, really what you need the Christian Watson hamstring, and then Jaden Reed is a bit player. So Watson hurts his hamstring. Jaden Reed is in like a 65% route share role, and then Melton just gets on the field and starts playing a ton. But yeah, it just indulged me for 3 seconds on Bo Melton. Yeah. That's all.
I think that's a fair one. I mean, it's a wide receiver depth chart that we're taking a lot of stabs at, but is not, I would say, especially set.
It's not set at all. It's like the least set of all these teams in the clear top 3 target earners.
Yeah. So I think that Bo Melton's an interesting name to throw out there. He's not someone I'd really been thinking about, but I actually think he does fit this discussion.
He's so opaque because he played at that shit Rutgers team that Pacheco played for that was like basically the worst team in the FBS. So there was just nothing to learn about those players.
He had 2.28 yards per out run in his final season, which is solid. It's not amazing. It's funny, far from Puka levels, but
yeah.
What do we think Rutgers YPA was that season?
God. I mean, it was very, very bad, right?
Was it 2021 or 2022?
2021 was Pacheco's rookie season, so I think it must have been the 2020.
Okay, so in 2020, the starting quarterback for Rutgers averaged 4.9.
Oh no, I'm wrong. I think
attempt.
Pacheco was 2022. Pacheco's 2022 is his rookie season, so it's the 2021 season we're talking about.
Yeah.
2021, Isaiah Pacheco, 167 rushing yards, 3.9 yards per carry. Bo Melton more than doubled up the number 2 guy on the team in receiving yards for a quarterback that had 5.4 adjusted yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on just 100 routes, I think maybe 95 routes or so last year, Bo Melton was at 2.7 yards per route run, 29% targets per route run. Really insane. Obviously, it's a very low or small sample size we're working with there, but I do think in the same way that you can draft Noah Brown in the 18th round if you have CJ Stroud, I think you can draft Bo Melton in the 18th round if you have Jordan Love. It's definitely a better pick than a lot of the wide receivers going there, I think.
A very non-derogatory, that's fair.
I prepared this to be, no one's going to like hearing this, but 90% drafted Khalif Raymond versus 1% drafted Bo Melton. Give me 1% drafted Bo Melton over 90% draft. I probably spent more time this year talking about Khalif Raymond than any other player. True. People just love taking this guy in the 18th round.
I like him if I have Goff too, but yeah, I agree. It's not like the ownership shouldn't be 90% and 1%. I don't think Khalif Raymond's 90% drafted though. He's probably like,
I don't think he is either.
Yeah.
It depends if they have if you pay for rankings from someone, you've got a lot of Khalif Raymond because he projects well. Like you're just like, oh, he's gonna get 80.
And he was good last year. But the problem for Khalif Raymond is that he's rotational
30.
4th wide receiver, probably. Yeah. Like he's the 3rd wide receiver, but does he play? Is he locked in?
If Jameson Williams does anything, like if Jameson Williams is a competent NFL player, Khalif Raymond is a stone 0.
But if he's not, then Khalif Raymond might be kind of fun.
Yeah. He could catch like 65 passes, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of I was taking a decent amount of Khalif Raymond, and then I kind of had the thing of like, what am I really doing? I'm not winning it all with Khalif Raymond, probably.
I think it's just similar to the Josh Reynolds bet last year, which I think was a pretty good bet, and you got pretty good results with that. Obviously it's not the same bet as Puka. Like, understand it's not a high upside swing, but Josh Reynolds had a couple of solid spike weeks last year. Didn't happen in the right weeks, right? But it certainly could have worked.
I mean, it's just a worst round pick. Just draft Greg Dortch.
Yeah, we'll get
you don't have to tell me twice, brother. I think I have 30% Dortch.
I love
Yeah.
it. So you're not even looking for Puka. You're just signing up.
No,
for Dortch.
I'm drafting the guy who people are going to think is Khalif Raymond next year. Like Greg Dortch is going to be a
Right.
popular 14th round pick next year.
How high do you think Khalif Raymond is going?
Yeah, who's taking Khalif Raymond in the 14th round?
No, I'm saying next year Dortch will be a 14th round pick.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
But
I'm
are you
confused.
saying
But
Khalif Raymond's a 14th pick now? Is that what you're saying?
He's not available on my screen when I log into Underdog. It was one of the things I asked them about the new partnership was just don't show me any 29-year-old special teamer. Just remove
Take
them from
him out
my
of the
pool.
pool.
Just take
Your
them out of the
rankings
pool.
are just the Underdog ADP minus Khalif Raymond.
Minus Khalif Raymond. Minus Khalif Raymond and A.T. Perry. Those guys are not. those guys
dudes
are
are
not
out
on my
of there.
screen.
Those double as Dennis Allen's Underdog rankings do.
Correct. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Sam.
So
What's next?
yeah, so I'll just say last word on. So these two columns on the left, it's not like there's not any good late round bets there. Like on the Raiders, you could talk me into finding whoever their wide receiver 3 is, maybe Trey Tucker. On the Eagles, you could talk me into, Anis Smith or Johnny Wilson once we have more info later in the summer. But none of these guys.
You could be talked into Anis Smith.
Yeah, I could be talking to Anis Smith. But none of these guys are like big cuts in the way Puka was, because on the Rams, there was.
Hang on. Okay, there is a big cut here. It's Ricky Pearsall.
I don't know, man. If 3 guys get injured, I guess.
3 guys. He needs one injury, and he's unlocked.
Adam,
he's been.
I don't know if he's unlocked in the way Puka. I mean, 1 injury, and he's still clearly the 4th in the pecking order.
Are you like counting Elijah Mitchell? How are you getting
You're not kidding.
Hey,
Counting
I've
Kittle
got
and
an idea.
CMC both have like 20% target shares, and both the wide receivers have 20% target shares. Like that's 4 guys.
So
Pearsall's,
one gets hurt, he's still 4th. Who's ahead?
Yeah, one gets hurt and he's 4th. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
I see. I do.
They
see
did
what
just
you're
pay.
saying.
They
Okay.
did just pay Juwan Jennings like $9 million a year or something.
I think it was to clear cap space for the.
It probably was. I got a good idea for a tweet. I don't know if I've got time to do all the legwork for this. Good tweet someone could do is just go through and look at rookie wide receiver seasons on Shanahan called offenses. I don't actually know the answer to this.
Well, had an awesome season.
Who?
Ayuk.
Oh yeah, you're right.
People forget the whole doghouse thing wasn't until year 2. That was
I did actually forget that.
He had an awesome rookie season.
Yeah, him behind River Crackraft. That was a good bit. That's classic Shanahan.
Yeah. So look, I mean, yes, he could be 4th still, even if there's an injury. But that's not why it's a big cut. I mean, he was a 1st-round wide receiver who gets open very well in the intermediate part of the field. And like Puka last year, was talked up a lot in minicamp period. So, maybe he's really good. Maybe he's a really good wide receiver on a Shanahan offense. It probably takes an injury to unlock, but I think that is actually a decently big cut.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. And yeah, I guess it's just semantics on the purpose of this exercise, I guess. But yes, I certainly think that Ricky Pearsall fits well into certain teams. I think there's just depth charts that are way less crowded where guys with far less draft capital have a chance to emerge. That's, I guess, kind of the spirit of how I was interpreting this exercise.
Yeah, he's not a Puka, but as far as big cuts in his first group,
if I was to compare Pearsall to someone, I would say maybe like St. Brown or like rookie year AJ Brown or something, where like there was like no production early, but then it just turns out he's really good.
Right.
And gets on the field by hook or by crook.
And he has the draft capital. So he's not, it's sort of a reverse type of bet. It's like, dude was good. He was drafted like he was really good, and he was.
Yeah.
So, and that just shined through eventually.
So not that I think that he's anywhere near as good, but rookie year AJ Brown, he has the rando 100-yard game early, then the 2 touchdown game on 42% of the snaps, but he doesn't really get activated until week 12, and he just goes like nuclear down the stretch, and that would kind of be your Pearsall thing. Or maybe he does flash early. Maybe he does flash on like 17 routes in week 4 or something. But doesn't get full-time playing time until someone gets hurt.
And like, I know a lot of times the situation stuff is about quarterback play and not target competition. And it is tough for me to see. Like, I really believe in Ayuk and Debo, and the target competition stuff is serious, but like we discounted AJ Brown a lot, like in Dynasty, in addition to regular redraft and best ball, like because of situation.
Yeah.
Like he dropped. You could get AJ Brown at like the end of the first round of Dynasty drafts that year, rookie drafts. I mean, Garrett Wilson, right? Like Justin Jefferson, Jefferson was more the BC Johnson stuff, but Garrett Wilson dropped a ton because of situation.
Ola BC Johnson. That is trivia that only the true nerdest of nerds would know. That Ola BC.
Well, I couldn't remember this morning on Best Ball Breakfast, and the chat helped me out. That it was
started over Justin Jefferson his first 2 career games.
That was insanity. But yeah, I agree with you, Pat. It's like it's definitely a little bit insane to me that like Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, even maybe if you want, you could throw Brian Thomas in there. They all go in the 70s, and they were picked just like 10 spots in the real NFL draft ahead of
and are mostly on worse teams.
Leggett, Pearsall, Jalen Polk, who all go at like pick 140. Like that's a lot of market confidence in the situation, which again I think is important, and like those guys obviously should be ranked ahead. But like at the end of the day, it's going to matter more if these guys are just good players or bad players. So
it matters so much more. Like no. When a wide receiver is good, they are the situation. You know what I mean? Like they become what drives the situation. So we just don't know which of these guys are good. We're going to find that out soon. And then we're going to not care so much. Like, like these tiny little things around the margins are just not going to matter nearly as much as we think. But because we don't know how good they are, we're putting a lot of stock in them because we don't have anything else to really grasp onto yet. But my feeling on this is that it's not that we're mispricing Brian Thomas. It's that we're mispricing Pearsall, Leggett, and Polk.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that as well. So for today, we're prime. Again, there's certainly late round targets you can talk about on these teams in the far left, and that's maybe a topic for another day. We're going to focus on the teams that have the most ambiguous pass catcher hierarchies, and that's 11 teams called out here on the right. And then if we have time, there's 5 teams that are kind of interesting in the Cardinals, Falcons, Ravens, Browns, and Lions that have wide open, like wide receiver 2 depth charts to some to varying extents, but they have pretty locked in like elite tight ends and wide receiver 1. So I'd say they're slightly less in focus for today. But without further ado, let's dive into the first group of teams. These 2 teams, I think, just have completely ambiguous wide receiver 1s. The market has decided that Ladd McConkey is the favorite, which I certainly agree with. But again,
it's probably bad. To me, I think we could totally look back on the Ladd McConkey ADP and be like, what? Ladd McConkey in the 70s on a half PPR site?
I think it's good.
No, I'm into it. I take him, but I'm just acknowledging that this is a situation that could look hilarious in retro. Like this could be a Sky Moore ADP situation.
I think it's more likely to be a JSN ADP where he's just
sure,
this dude who really does nothing, and like, but then you're just the reason I compare it to that is like I'm pretty sure at worst he's the slot receiver and maybe he catches a touchdown in the right week. Like that's I think my bad outcomes, or a lot of them.
Well, can I offer a rebuttal that makes Ladd not nearly as appealing?
Sure.
Quentin Johnston was an effective slot wide receiver in college, more than effective, a really good one, brutal outside wide receiver. I talked to Matt Harmon last week, and he was like, they basically just asked Quentin Johnston to play a position he'd never played. It'd be like drafting Kyle Pitts and asking him to be a boundary wide receiver, like more or less. Like no wonder he couldn't do it. And like, yeah, obviously he stunk and he had the drops and he's a body catcher, all this stuff. It would not be an insane use of roster strategy for the Chargers to play Quentin Johnston out of the slot where they think he can probably be at least a replacement level player. And remember, Crane, all the scout bros, they all told us, well, that runs 79% of his routes from the outside at Georgia. They all, they were like, he can be an outside wide receiver, and maybe he can, but you don't want him.
Hearing in training camp that he can.
You don't want that for fantasy though. For fantasy, that is a
I want him to run as many routes as he can. So if you're
that
telling me
limits his target upside, I think.
I don't know that it does, because if he's only like, what could limit his target upside if he only plays in the slot and he has like a 70% route rate, that could potentially limit his target upside because he's not on the field a bunch of times. But if this dude's rotating to the outside in 3 wide receiver sets, and or what am I saying? If he's mixing up where he's running,
QJ is the rotational guy.
QJ is the rotational guy.
I mean, the ideal scenario, right, is in all 3 wide receiver sets, Ladd's in the
he's
slot.
on the field. That's what I'm trying to say.
And then in 2 wide receiver sets, he's playing the flanker or something, right? So you do want him to have the versatility, but I guess what maybe
that he does.
thing,
by the way, they like him most in the slot, but he is looking like he can play on the outside.
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, there's been some quotes on this too. I do think the Chargers will change up Quentin Johnston's usage and get him some looks in the slot. I'd be surprised if they're like, he's our default slot wide receiver in most formations. But yeah, I think it certainly would be good for him if they mixed him in there 30, 40% of the time, something along those lines.
The one I don't like is Palmer. I'm just out.
I take some Palmer. I have a lot of Rashee Rice. Josh Palmer, it works pretty well for that. I'm also pretty much always looking to backdoor Drake May stacks, so Palmer gets me on that.
Tyler Lockett, the perfect blanket for Rashee Rice.
He's good. Yeah, no, Tyler Lockett's a good way to play that. There's a decent amount of guys in that range. Josh Downs, I think you can use a little bit. But
Pat doesn't know ball. He didn't say Dontavian Wicks first.
Dontavian Wicks is going in the 80s at this point.
That's fair.
He's about to flip Rice. Yeah, so I mean, I think Palmer serves a purpose. I actually don't. I don't think he's like horribly priced. Like, remember when we did the Marcus Callaway thing?
Yes,
but he went in
Marcus
70s,
Callaway, but at wide receiver 55, not wide receiver 38.
Yeah, or remember when we did who was the guy that went on the Bucks? Russell Gage. When we did that?
I remember that well.
So I did want to do a quick game with Josh Palmer, because I think I'm more on Pat's side. I don't think he's like some amazing smash selection, but I do think he's been a little bit better in his NFL career than some people are giving him credit for. This is Josh Palmer versus a mystery wide receiver. This is just last year's season.
If it's Sam, the mystery guy has to be JSN.
It's JSN. There's no mystery.
No, it's not JSN. I'll give you another guess.
He had 19% targets per out run, so I'm actually shocked.
I'm actually shocked.
JSN's yards per out run, dude. I mean, JSN's yards per out run was not that high. It was like
the funny thing is, Sam actually just made this chart off of memory. He didn't even have to double check.
No, yeah. These might not be right, all the way to the decimal point, but they're directionally accurate.
Okay. Give me a hint. If it's not JSN, give me a hint.
4th year wide receiver. Last year was rookie contract.
T. Higgins.
You are correct.
Wow.
So look again,
another guy who sucks ass secretly that no one talks about.
Yeah, but again, like this is nitpicking Higgins a little bit because last year was his worst year. But this does
love this game so much.
This does not
find someone who had the worst year of their career. Now they're Josh Palmer.
But I will say a lot of the defense of T. Higgins is like, oh, he was injured, like that drags down his like scoring. But these are per route stats, yards per route run and targets per route run. Josh Palmer and T. Higgins nearly identical last year in similar X wide receiver roles. So I don't think Josh Palmer is as good as T. Higgins, but I think he's somewhere on like
his game logs were a little bit better than I got a hand up on this one. I like after last week's show, I went and looked at some of Palmer's stuff, and he's a little bit better than I remember.
But I mean, yes, he was better last year than we remember, but he had 1.2 yards per out run as a rookie, 1.2 yards per out run again as a sophomore. And he has this, moderately efficient season last year with JSN being absolutely terrible. I guess, now that Keenan Allen's gone, Mike Williams is gone, maybe he repeats that. But there is like a long history of guys generally just like not being good, but like maybe they have one season where they're like, oh yeah. Like this is a remember that guy most likely.
Most likely, but you're paying a price of 105, and I just think in the
Yeah,
context
yeah.
of the Chargers wide receiver room, it's like I don't know, like is 1.2 and 1.2 yards per route run to start your career as like a kind of developmental like round 4 prospect, like those that doesn't scream out as like terrible to me. Also, one of those seasons he had over 100 targets on the season, so he's shown he can earn some level of targets. Like
He also has operated this is sort of anecdotally just from like watching him, but he at times was like filling in for Keenan Allen, and then at times been kind of like a pure deep threat. And so he's moved around
kind of versatile.
Things
Yeah.
he's kind of versatile. I think he came in as like kind of a deep threat, but he doesn't have great speed.
Well, he played at Tennessee when they were like a giant mess. Like like he was one of those guys where the film guys were like, it's just kind of impossible. There were film guys
Mike
who
Renner,
were like really high.
Mike Renner loved him. Yeah, I remember just from the film stuff. So I don't know. I'm just like in this wide open of wide receiver room, especially in the context of Herbert going so cheap. I do kind of like the Palmer click when I've been kind of boxed out of other stacks. Maybe I've been sniped on a Joe Burrow stack or something, and like the Palmer Herbert stack feels really good at cost to me with how late both those guys are going.
No, I mean I have 11% Palmer. I'm realizing that like the way like Leone's like on board with Davis's point, and then he says the thing at the end and then he's off. This is me and you with these player comparison things. It's like Palmer, and then he's like, yeah, it's basically just T. Higgins.
Hey, man, try to argue with the numbers. He's better than T. Higgins. I'm sorry.
I've upgraded Palmer to a 4% exposure blanket.
I love that.
All right, nice. Yeah,
I love that it's
It's solid. And I'm only at 9 on Higgins, so maybe I agree with Sam after all.
Dude, I mean, we can just be. I just can't wait for the year where we can finally stop pretending that T. Higgins is good. It's coming in a couple of years.
I think it's coming.
Once he signs with the Panthers next year, we can finally stop pretending.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was going to say once he signs the Kenny Golladay memorial contract.
Oh no! Oh no!
So actually, I did want to before. In the spirit of the show, we're talking really deep guys here. I'm curious, starting with you, Crane. Any of these guys like piqued your interest? The Darius Davis, Brendan Rice, Cornelius Johnson, like not necessarily drafting now, but like anything in their profiles that like say we get some hype on them later in the year. Are you intrigued by any of these guys? Are you kind of ruling them out? Because I'm somewhat intrigued just with how wide open this depth chart is.
I'm not really that intrigued. I mean, we kind of know what Chark is, and he's probably he's like the most likely of these guys to do anything. That we don't expect this offense to be embracing the pass. So I think the expensive guys, or the two most expensive guys, are like, we think like, what are we looking to do? It's like a guy who can come in and just take a huge share of the targets and kind of like put the offense on his back. This offense is one of those where you could see that happening, where like, a Greg Roman offense isn't going to pass a ton, but it has supported big target shares for guys. Someone was noting, I think in the YouTube comments somewhere, that Sammy Watkins was originally in a Greg Roman offense when he had his like one good year. So like there's, it's kind of an old school offense. Maybe they just funnel targets to one guy. I could see that being Ladd. I could see it being Palmer. And I think both are reasonably priced. They're not like screaming values, but to me that's kind of the way, that's sort of what I see us doing here. I don't think it's Johnston. I think when you flop that hard as a rookie, like you're a couple years away from really doing anything even interesting. So I think if anything, kind of Johnston and Chark provide like a higher percentage that it flows through McConkey or Palmer.
Well, I thought we'd get further in the show before I unleashed my hottest take, which is that I think Brendan Rice is the best Puka Nacua candidate this year.
Okay. Damn.
Obviously, my if you made me assign a confidence interval on that, it would be low. But he kind of meets the things in a very similar way to Puka. He transferred in college due to some weirdness. He played on a weird college team, like arguably one of the weirdest college teams, with the whole like final season at USC where like everything is just crumbling around you. Your quarterback's crying in the stands. It's all a mess. He played with a bunch of other NFL players
before going first overall.
Just very, very bizarre the final season. But we've got he plays with Jordan Addison, Taj Washington, and one other wide receiver whose name I forget, who are now all on on NFL rosters. Very solid combine for his size, 6'2", 210, 4'5", like not like a crazy one, but he got on the field really young. And Corinne, I don't have access to any like the yards per route run and all that stuff, but I'm gonna guess he probably was pretty strong in those
2.75 last year.
Yeah,
which
he
is
played,
good.
And he scored 12 touchdowns. I mean, that was a huge chunk of their offense last year. And he was the only USC wide receiver who did not rotate a ton. USC would do this really annoying thing where wide receivers would only play like 50% of the snaps. They had 11 guys with over 13 receptions, which is very bizarre for a college team. This is the most wide open depth chart in football, I think.
Yeah. I don't hate the take, and I do think, back to the Puka point, Brandon Rice, I think, gets dinged in some models like JJ's because his yards per team pass attempt, I think, is pretty weak, but his yards per route run is actually pretty good. I don't think it was like Puka Nacua levels in college, but again, that discrepancy sometimes gets lost a little bit in these models. So yeah, maybe there's a story there where I don't know why there's that discrepancy. Maybe he was banged up. Maybe it was a wide receiver rotation. Not exactly sure, but that's something positive there with him. I do think, like, Davis, are you drafting him now? Or are you waiting to see some hype?
Not like a lot. Like, I'm not like, I don't have like 40% Brendan Rice bags, but like if Greg Dortch is gone at the end of a draft, yeah. I think there's an edge in that, in that they're like, so let's say Brendan Rice is for sure making the team or whatever, it becomes pretty clear he's going to play, maybe even play over Quentin Johnston. He starts to get drafted all the time in ADP combinations that are not possible because of other stuff. Like, there will be teams that you can draft right now with 18th round Brendan Rice that you will not be able to on August 22nd.
So I think a challenge to, if you happen to be like professionally covering the Chargers, just like write up like
just
some
like
of the rookies.
What's going on?
You'll get so much engagement.
Yeah, you would get a lot of engagement. Let me tell you, there is a hole right now in the market.
Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Chargers. It's like the worst beat situations in the league somehow.
I haven't heard anything about Brendan Rice, but I don't know that says anything about Brendan Rice because I haven't heard anything about Kamani Vidal either. And from what we like, so Kyle Dvorak did a deep dive on Vidal. And he listened to podcasts and stuff. And he was like, yeah, like everyone thinks he's making the roster. Like they think Spiller's going to be on the practice squad. He's making the roster. So like, it's not even that he's not on like the team's radar. They just aren't writing about him. It's a wide open backfield that they're not writing about. So I don't know. It's probably just out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And also he did go in the 7th round, which even though
this was the pick. No, it's not. This was the point I wanted to get. I mean, obviously it's not as good as being a 3rd round pick or whatever, but
or even 5th round, like 7th round is scary.
If you wanted to make an argument for why it is in any way interpreted as positive, it's that even spending a 7th round pick for a guy who plays no special teams, he's not going to return kicks. He's not going to, like, Jerry Rice's kid is not playing punt gunner. It's not happening. You take him there because you think there's a chance that he can be.
He might be playing punt gunner.
He just wouldn't. I literally think he just would. He'd be like, it's not happening for me. Like, do you know who my dad is? I'm gonna guess he plays no special teams. He just plays no special teams. So either he's making the roster as the 4th wide receiver, or he's just not making the roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't know anything about, are you saying that because he didn't play special teams in college, or do you think that's just because he's Jerry Rice's son?
He didn't play special teams in college, and
he's not a good athlete, I guess. Really,
it would
he's
be
okay.
And Cornelius Johnson was not a good wide receiver in college, but is like this, like he's going to be the new Matthew Slater for Harbaugh.
So that's the guy I wanted to touch on really briefly. Again, obviously not drafting him now, but if anyone on the Chargers wants to cover the team and he gets some hype, I would be interested because A, he played at Michigan with Harbaugh, so he has the familiarity there. And B, I guess 3 reasons. B, absolute freak athlete, 9.91 RAS. He's 6'3", 212, ran a 4.44 40. So he could be like, if Quentin Johnston just sucks, they could be like this is the new freak athlete guy. We're just going to get on the field for screens, whatever. And last thing, there were some positive notes in his profile. I was looking at JJ's pre-draft or NFL draft prospect model stuff today. And, some of his stuff looks better in the context of the low volume offense at Michigan. He was playing alongside other NFL players like Roman Wilson. So, JJ's, paraphrasing JJ was like, if you squint, this isn't like the worst 6th, 7th round wide receiver ever. So I do think there's just some slight positives with him that make him intriguing if there's sort of any hype that we get later in the offseason.
Let me just share this with the people here. So when you search The Athletic, just Control F for anyone interested in the Chargers, here's what you get.
Are the people nerdy enough to know that sound? Do they know? Do they know about that? Yeah. You get nothing on Vidal, you get nothing on Brennan Rice, you get nothing on Cornelius Johnson. You get nothing. You get
nothing. This, by the way, that was literally from an article titled "Chargers prepared to move to El Segundo plus other notes from final day of minicamp." Other notes from final day of minicamp. Maybe note some interesting stuff about the rookies. That'd be a good thing to note.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's insane.
Let's talk here about the Patriots. I think this is
surely this will be quick.
Yeah. I mean, there's only like 10 to 12 wide receivers that we have to talk about here, so it should breeze right through it. Where do we start here, Pat? I think the top three, I guess my quick takeaway is Polk, Demario Douglas, Javon Baker. I want all of them, especially Polk and Douglas, I think, but I like all three of these guys a lot. Where are you on the Patriot stuff?
Yeah, I think Polk is one of the best picks in the entire player pool. You get the Drake May upside. I think it was Madison Parkhill was underlining this of like, if you're not that interested in the Drake May, starting, when does he start and all that, Polk is the cleanest way to play it because you're getting the upside of potentially Brissett playing well early in the season. The other thing is that I was not excited when they drafted Polk, given that I'm really rooting for Drake May. I think he's a great prospect. I already had a decent amount invested in him by the point that he was drafted. And, Polk is not like the most high upside archetype of receiver, but he's kind of like this professional kind of Rodgers compared him to Chris Godwin as like his upside comp for him. But that's sort of, he's gonna do stuff over the middle. He's got really good hands. But as far as like betting on a guy to make an immediate impact in a wide open depth chart, that's a pretty good archetype, right? Like, be a professional. Like, being a professional is enough to make a pretty big impact. Now, in year 2, year 3, is Polk going to hold off? Like, if they bring in like a really, really talented wide receiver next year with like the 2 overall pick or T. Higgins, and is he going to be awesome?
Probably hold off T. Higgins.
Well, yeah, you could hold off T. Higgins, but I mean,
he's basically Josh Palmer, but
he's basically just Josh Palmer. But like, yeah, that's where you start to wonder if Polk's going to have that high of a ceiling. But I mean, just being a competent, solid professional at pick 140, and then Drake May is good. That leads to a big win. So Polk, I think, is just a smash right now. I've actually been trying to take more of him. I already am at 21%, and I feel like I've been a little bit too light. I'd like to get up. Like, I think he's kind of a player you should have. I want to be at like 25% plus on Polk right now.
You got to be at 25% plus of every Huskies wide receiver last year. That's the key to winning PBM.
That's how we win.
Yeah.
That reflects my exposures from the big board, so I hope that works.
Davis, anything? I think we've talked a lot on Polk here. Anything on Douglas or Baker or some of these other later Patriots? Any other guys you want to target?
I think the inconvenient truth for the Jalen Polk bags might be Demario Douglas, who is already a competent professional wide receiver who's demonstrated an ability to get open at the NFL level. Didn't score any touchdowns. I don't know how much you can really hold that against him, given the context of the offense that he was in. They were I got to remember off the top of my head, last 30 years, they were one of the 30 lowest scoring offenses, period, in terms of touchdown production, like historically bad. And I guess Polk played a lot out of the slot in Washington. I think I think the ball knowers say he's capable of doing both things of kind of like what we were actually talking about with the Chargers. I think Pat is correct about Polk. He's the better ceiling guy. He's a good bet to get on the field quite quickly. I worry that both his floor and his ceiling are impacted by Douglas, who just like is not going to go away, who just like is going to be on the field and earn some variety of targets. I think
we found our tutu here.
Yeah, so it's actually I think that's actually a good comp. He just is like going to be on the field. He's going to earn some targets, probably more targets than Atwell, but has, you know, a much lower average depth of target. I would argue that Douglas is probably the one that's most sensitive to May being as good as Corain and I think he is, where if he is actually quite good, if he is, let's not even say good, let's say he's the 16th best quarterback in the NFL this upcoming season, which would definitely be a win for Pat and I, and a win for Sam as well, who wants to root.
Can we just go ahead and lock that in? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think I take that. I take that right now. Yeah. I think that's huge for Douglas because it means he can go from being, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good comp, like an Eddie Royal style player, you know, just like totally fine, to a guy who can like actually score 13.1 half-point PPR points per game or something, which is high. That's a high bar. You know, that's not nothing. Obviously, the inconvenientest truth is KJ Osborne, who reports seem to suggest is like not only going to make the team, but might even be considered number one in the wide receiver hierarchy right now. None of which is to say my favorite one is Javon Baker, because Baker has the most correlated ceiling to May, in my opinion, where if May is who I think he is, the one that he stylistically fits with the best is Baker. Baker is just Devontae Walker, the Devontae Walker role that May excelled with so much at UNC.
Yeah, I think the DeMario like could, you know, if you just look at like not much else, being functional is good enough. Like Hunter Renfrow had 1,000-yard season back in 2021, sorry. 1,000.
Easy said this in the chat earlier, that the better exercise here is not finding this year's Nacua. It's finding third-year Hunter Renfrow, who finished wide receiver 9 and half PPR.
Yeah, I mean, that's potentially Douglas. Like, I like Douglas. I take Douglas. My general bet on the Patriots is just betting on the Patriots.
Just take I like Polk, I like Douglas, I like Baker, I take Osborne.
Do you guys want to do another mystery wide receiver game with Demario Douglas?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're gonna love this one. All right.
Oh no, this is
just
you guys were a little too early. You guys were just a little too early. You knew I was gonna get to it eventually.
There was only two guys. It could possibly be on either of those.
I mean, again, in the context of the offense he was in last year, I mean, Demario Douglas is better than JSN. I don't know how you can argue with him the other way.
I love this. I'm actually in on this one. He might be better.
I think unironically, had Demario Douglas gone to Ohio State, he'd have been like a second-round pick, probably.
What would he have done in that final game that JSN went?
Well, he was getting covered by Micah Bernard, a running back, so he probably would have just went nuts. Imagine those routes against a running back. That
300 yards in that bowl game, Sam.
Sam, you find
300 yards in that bowl game, against the backup running back playing corner was super impressive.
Sam finding that in the peak of JSN. Everyone, because JSN was the prospect that offseason where everyone tried to be higher on him than everyone else. And Sam going totally the other way and being like, they had a running back covering this guy in his game. Like, maybe let's settle down. Sam, you should parade that around more, truly.
Well, you can't because you're in on him now.
Well,
it's just his wrist, bro.
Maybe.
It's just his wrist.
Yeah.
He's dropped in press.
JSN, I think he's a totally average pick this year, but I don't know. Like I don't like talking about it because my brand is anti-JSN. So we'll edit this part out. But
Sam's gonna win the mini Schnauzer 3 with 100% JSN.
That is the correct way to play. You know, like we're Bayesian, we got to update, prices change and all that, but just don't talk about it. Don't talk about how you're in on JSN now.
No, don't talk about it. It's just going to look worse for you when he inevitably is worse than Demario Douglas, which he clearly is by the numbers. So.
The numbers don't lie, you know?
The numbers literally don't not. I mean, these are passes, guys, from Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones.
God, if Drake May is the 16th best quarterback in the
NFL, come on, Drake. Please be good.
Yeah.
Now, can I admit something amongst friends real quick here before we do this? I am getting worried because all the Patriots people I follow, they are not optimistic about this team. They are like, this is the worst offensive line ever.
Yeah, the offensive line's apparently terrible.
There's a bunch of 20-year-old wide receivers with a 22-year-old quarterback. There's no adult I guess Hunter Henry is the adult pass catcher. It's new head coach, new OC, first time Gerard Mayo was playing like 9 years ago. Like this, like it could, if May is not, it's not even about his ability. I think it's like, if he's not emotionally mature enough to handle all of this, like it could be Zach Wilson. Like we could have bags of Zach Wilson for real.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. Like you part of the appeal with the rookie quarterback is we don't know yet, and it's one of the things you sometimes learn is that he's terrible. Know, brother. Yeah, we just don't know. But we didn't know with Zach Wilson either. No one thought that. No one thought that. So we could be very wrong. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, at least the Patriots have taken this is not an impressive wide receiver depth chart, but having Bourne and Osborne as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, it's at least somewhat. Well, it's going to be somewhat competent, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but they have a lot of players here.
I think Bourne is good. It's like the ACL. What does he look like coming back off the ACL? But if he's the guy we had the last couple years,
Osborne is cromulent.
Yeah, he's cromulent. I do think we're going to continue to get cheap prices on these younger guys because. I mean, just be ready for the reports that Bourne and Osborne are playing with the starters because I think we're getting those.
They're already there. KJ Osborne is the wide receiver 1 per all the most recent reports.
Yeah, I'm pretending. I mean, his stats in Minnesota
heard that he was the wide receiver 1. I heard that he was clearly starting.
No, this is. I just read it yesterday. I don't even remember what outlet from, but I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's July 1st, but
he's a career 13% targets per route run, right around 1 yards per route run. I'm kind of pretending he doesn't exist.
I think it's fine to pretend he doesn't exist still. I mean, he's in the rankings and everything at Legendary Upside, but I mean, he's and Sacrilegious has been talking about him every day since February. But,
yeah, why is Sacrilegious so obsessed with him?
But he keeps being more right, and I'm very annoyed by it because I'm just I don't want to have to think about this.
Chad is right. It just said he was starting.
Okay,
not the number 1.
That's what I'd read. So I mean, I think Polk has a very clear path to being the number 1, and then maybe Demario Douglas has a clear path potentially to having the highest targets per route run, but he's not going to run all the routes because he's an undersized slot. So I think that those are the 2 best ways to play it. They're also the 2 most expensive, but they're very cheap. Javon Baker, I want to get some more thoughts from you guys on him because on the one hand, if we're just looking for Puka, he was a day 3 guy, 4th round pick.
It's not the right stylistic thing because I don't think he can get that many targets.
Probably not, but what are we looking for, right? With Puka, we want to see some flashes of efficiency. Maybe moved around to different schools. This guy started at Alabama.
I think to get the new Puka, they had to have transferred. I'm going to institute that rule. You had to have transferred in college.
Yeah, 4 years. Had to be in the COVID so this is going away soon. And then you gotta transfer. He had 3.21 yards per route run in his final season, 2.53 over the course of his career, which is solid, not crazy Puka levels, but he was he flashed a little in very limited routes at Alabama and then was really good this final season at UCF. So then you land on a depth chart where there's immediate opportunity, which I think there very clearly is. I just don't know if he's any good at all. And I haven't heard that much hype on him. It seems like the hype's more on Douglas and Polk. By this time last year, we actually had already a decent amount of Puka hype. So the pattern matching stuff is pretty good for Baker, but he just might not be that good.
Yeah, I feel similar, and I do think like compared to Polk and Douglas, he has the highest risk of just like we don't hear from him at all this season.
At all.
That said, I still have been clicking him a lot because again, like I really like Polk, but if Polk is the best wide receiver on the depth chart, that's the most ambiguous depth chart in the league. Like we don't really know if Polk is good, so I still really like getting a guy. He was drafted in the first 5 picks of the 4th round, like very close to round three draft capital. I still think it's for all the reasons you said, Crane. I think it's still a very good like archetypal bet. It's just like know that this is a chance of getting a 0 here. But again, even worst case scenario, are they not like seeing what they have in him a little bit down the stretch? I still think you have that out, even if he's like not part of their plans at all to start the season.
I'm gonna invoke a name that really shouldn't say on this show, but like the whole thesis for why people wanted to take Saquon last year was because he was the only guy on the roster who could move his body. And I think that is true of Baker now. He's the only, I mean, I guess Osborne was kind of in that role for Minnesota, but Baker's the guy who you close your eyes week 17 against the Chargers and he's catching a 70-yard bomb.
Yeah. That's you're just hoping he gets on the field by the end of the season, and he's priced, the earliest you're really taking him is 15th round. He's available in the last round a fair amount. So I have more Baker than I'm really comfortable with. He's my second highest drafted receiver because I'm into the Patriots in one way or another in a lot of these drafts. And then I get to the end and I'm like, yeah, Javon Baker fits. But I don't have that level of confidence that he's actually, going to be anything. But he has enough draft capital to where if he's decent, he'll get a shot. Depth chart's wide open, correlated with potentially a quarterback who's way better than people realize. It's just it's a pretty obvious one.
Yeah, I agree. So 1 hour in, we've gotten through 2
teams.
I
was going to say this might have been a bit of an ambitious docket for these 3
just
guys.
To derail us before we get to the third. If we want to do a trade, right? The Chargers clearly need some more beats. Patriots have got a lot of great beats.
They've got like 90. The Patriots didn't have any more beat writers.
If someone
just started a new Patriots blog today.
Yeah. If you're looking for a little less crowded environment, maybe head over here to San Diego.
We gotta just get Mike
down, cover the Chargers.
Yeah. Let's get Mike Reese just covering every team. That guy is dialed into the Patriot stuff.
You can still cover the Chargers from San Diego, by the way, because no one's watching them in person. You don't have to go either. Just phone in, see what's going on with Kamani Vidal.
Crane, you should just hire a Chargers beat reporter for Legendary Upside. Like why not? I mean, just start branching out. You're right there.
I'm honestly tempted. I'm pretty tempted.
Okay. Getting on to this list of teams here.
Carolina will be really quick. There is no Puka-Nacua on a team that's going to throw for 2,800 yards.
Okay. That's probably true. Let me just set this up a little bit before we get into Carolina. These teams here, I categorize these teams as teams that have clear wide receiver ones, but not alpha wide receiver ones. And we'll get to that list later. But all these teams have wide receivers going in the top 90 picks. They're all proven NFL players that have had good NFL seasons on their track record, but they're not elite stars. There's not CeeDee Lamb on this list. There's not Garrett Wilson on this list, etc. So I do think the Chargers one can maybe be kind of a quick conversation. There's not really like deep guys to talk about here. I think similar to the Polk conversation, I do like Leggett quite a bit, just betting on a first-round wide receiver in the NFL draft, going at pick 138. I do think for certain reasons he's worse than Polk because Deontay Johnson's there. But again, I want to be open to the possibility that he's just a really good player. Yeah. Pat or Davis, you made your thoughts clear on the Panthers. Curious Ukraine. How do you view Leggett? Maybe compared to like Pearsall and Polk, because that's often the choice that you have around that ADP.
Yeah, I mean, I like Leggett. I don't love Leggett. I didn't think he was a great prospect, and I have a harder time getting excited about the Panthers than I do about some of these other teams. Like, they're going to be, I think, a lot more competent. But like, if we're getting kind of a Baker level, like, oh, he's actually fine, year two.
If you're a Canales bro, Leggett is like such a good pick. Like such a good pick.
But even even if we're betting on Canales, like we're getting competence, but are we getting like, oh damn, like the Panthers are lighting it up? Like I don't even think the Panthers think that, like that's not even their plan. To me, it's more like playing it through Jonathan Brooks is the way to play the Panthers, delivering on what they're trying to do. Like they're going to want to be a balanced team, probably slightly run first, or maybe even more than slightly run first. So I'm at 8% Leggett. I like Polk substantially more because I think you just have those like higher end outcomes where May is awesome and like slinging it, and you're getting volume and efficiency down the stretch. I have a harder time seeing it with Bryce Young after the rookie year that we just got. I think it's more likely that like, oh no, he's actually competent, but Deontay Johnson's there. We know what Deontay Johnson does. Like he's gonna get his targets, and then so Leggett's like a smaller win, which I think is fine. Like I think he's priced perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm even with.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another team. I just want to get one thing on the record. If you've already drafted a bunch of rookie wide receivers in your team, Adam Thielen at pick 160, totally fine pick for the early season stuff. I just think his projection versus ADP is insane. I get he's going to tail off, but if you already have made a lot of late season bets, I just want to, on the record, that's not a bad pick. Let's talk here. The Broncos. I think this is actually one of the more interesting ones. Again, not truly Puka Nacua because these guys are still getting drafted. The Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims here, but
Franklin
I think this
could definitely be the Puka.
Franklin's the single best bet to be Nacua.
Yeah, I think Franklin. Yeah,
more Amon-Ra. It's a different archetype. But guy with a strong statistical profile falls to day 3 of the draft and is then available in the final rounds of best ball.
And he didn't transfer.
He didn't transfer. He's a 3-year guy. So I'm saying he's Amon-Ra. He's not Puka. He's Amon-Ra. But then we get, this depth chart is wide open, right? And what was the other thing about Amon-Ra? He perfectly fit his quarterback. Yeah. Jared Goff's underneath dude. That's perfect. You know what else is perfect? Having already played with the quarterback in college. These two have a connection. So to me, I mean, Franklin, I was obviously disappointed with the draft capital, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not feeling great about clicking him.
If anyone other than Nix
was
his, if anyone other than Nix was his quarterback, like if this was him going to go play with Nick Mullins or something, or even like Goff or just like a good quarterback, but not his literal college quarterback, I would be less into it. I'm pretty into Mims too.
I take Mims too. Yeah.
I'm out on Sutton. I know, like I get all the reasons. I prefer Tyler Lockett. Like I don't know. I'm not a Sutton bro. Like at all. I like Franklin. I like betting on Franklin and Mims. One of those two really emerging down the stretch versus hoping that Cortland Sutton can run touchdowns again. That's just how I'm playing it. Also, keep in mind this team is going to throw. What's the funniest number I could say? 203 passes to running backs this year or something. Like it's going to be the degree to which these running backs on this roster are going to get targeted is going to make your head spin. It's going to be all over the place. And I think you just kind of mix Franklin and Mims. I don't think it makes sense to take 20 of one and 0 of the other. I think you just take a lot of them. And Nix now is kind of my favorite backdoor like last round quarterback. I might even like him more than May now.
Yeah. I'm at 13% Mims and 10% Franklin. So I've got more Mims than Franklin, but I think
you should change that.
I think I should change that. I think it should be Franklin higher. Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with you guys on the pro Franklin stuff. It sounds like I'm less in on Mims than you. It's just, I don't know, man. He ran like 250 routes last year and got 32 targets, like 13% targets per route run. Again, like he had some splash plays. He could be like certainly like at his price.
I think I have information that can change your mind. Truly.
Let's hear it.
Sean Payton does this shit with young players. Do you remember when he said about Mark Ingram, the only thing holding him back is me? and it was real. That he actually meant it, and then he stopped holding him back, and he was awesome. I mean, Sean Payton just does this with guys. He will just like randomly bench guys, rotate them in for no reason, and then just bring them back. Like I don't really see any reason why he can't run 70% of the routes. I mean, maybe he's KJ Hamler, maybe he's Sky Moore, like all that's possible. I would argue that Mims in like 4 games showed more than either of those guys ever in the NFL.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like it's. I'm not totally writing him off, but like it's 2 guys that are effectively the same price in drafts, and one of them, like, he had a bad rookie year, and it's kind of hard to squint and like tell another story. Like it's not like the guys keep him off the field. Again, you could argue it's weird Peyton stuff, but like he wasn't getting on the field over like Brandon Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey. I'm just like pretty concerned about that and don't want to make too many excuses for a guy that had 13% targets per outrun. Just give me the mystery box in this scenario. Like I think I'd want to. I haven't done enough drafts to like reflect this in my exposures, but I think I would want 15% Franklin and 3% Mims, something like that. Yeah.
Mims is so cheap that I think it makes sense to go back in. 2nd round pick, did flash, over the course of the whole season. It wasn't great, but there was those, early in the season.
He led the team in receiving yards despite playing like 6 snaps a game for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, but then he like didn't have a catch like the rest of the season, basically.
Well, you remember that stretch where it seemed like he was actively shaving points? He had like 3 fumbles on 3 touches. It was like one was on a punt return, one was on a screen. Like, like he just like, it's the kind of thing that makes you so infuriated in season, and then you completely forget about it when you're drafting best ball team 6 weeks later or 6 months later. I think Mims is the type of profile you don't write off after a very uneven rookie year. That's my opinion.
That's how I feel too. And, Peyton has said a lot of stuff about Mims, and it's really difficult to know if he's just like completely full shit on it or what. But one of the things he said was we basically couldn't play him in the role we wanted to play him in because we had Jerry Jeudy, and then they traded Jerry Jeudy. So
that's low-key a pretty big, actually that's not even low-key, it's kind of a high-key vote of confidence in Mims being able to eat snaps, is trading away Jeudy.
I mean, that's what Peyton was like. He was literally he's the Jerry Jeudy, and we had a Jerry Jeudy, so they put him in some other role, and that role might have been to like clear out safeties or whatever, like it's possible that he's just in a truly different role this season and is good. And he flashed enough, and he had enough draft capital, and he's a pretty good prospect, right? Your prospect profile, Mims was the better prospect than Franklin given the draft capital. Both had good statistical profiles. 2nd round versus 4th round makes a big difference. So I think you want to be overweight on both, in my opinion. I think you want to maybe at least even on Mims. I don't think fading Mims at this price. I don't know. And
I guess
a good bet too. Like,
yeah, I hear where you guys are coming from. I don't know, a couple other things. Like, there's not a full sample on it, but Matt Harmon charted some of Mims' rookie year data, and I believe this was the beginning of the season data. Again, I think he only charted like 90 routes, but he had a 42% success rate versus man. If you go through Harmon's data, that's like 60% is not that good of a figure. Like 40% is like Quentin Johnston territory. So again, just another data point that I think some of the stuff that he did in college was a little bit gimmicky. I mean,
he'd be like the 90th Oklahoma wide receiver in a row to look incredible in Oklahoma and then not be good in the NFL.
I just, the people who watch his film from his rookie year, I'll just say are like, no one I've listened to has been like, oh yeah, Marvin Mims flash.
I do love
it's been
this
all
thing.
Like bad film reviews. So I don't know. 13% targets for outrun and bad film. I'm just like, I don't know, man.
I do love this thing we do on this show where we all just give no authority to our ability to watch football and interpret what's happening. So we say the people who watch film, it's never, oh, when I was watching Mims, it's always, yeah, when I was reading this article about success rate, this guy who watched the film said X, Y, and Z.
I mean,
it's a good bit.
I've been watching, some of the stuff.
I watch highlights.
I love watching highlights, and I've been watching, there's some cut-ups that I've been watching. I should give the channel a shout. Curtain Call Replays does like full season cut-ups of all the touches. So it's not just the highlights, actually. It's all the touches and for a player in a given season. So I've been going and watching some of the running backs because there's such that big pocket. I'm just like, let me just like refamiliarize myself with all these guys' games, And Devon Achane, who I just watched as a breath of fresh air after watching all of these guys go on the ground, I was like, okay, yeah, like this dude is the guy. So while I'm not like breaking down like which hole a guy hit, but I do to some extent.
I think there is granular information to be gained from watching that type stuff because it helps you envision what a coach would be thinking about. How much can I give this guy the ball, and in what situations can I give this guy the ball? That helps with projections.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's just to do true tape analysis is it's a time consuming thing, and
very time consuming.
It's easier to type in the old PFF search bar.
Yeah,
correct.
And I do think that's like the next. There was actually a very interesting Salvage Run podcast on like the next frontier of analytics, and this like player tracking stuff, which we're getting more and more of. That's kind of like marrying film and analytics to some degree. That's going to be the next wave of stuff in the NFL. I don't know if us fantasy football people will ever get access to.
I think we will eventually.
Yeah,
I think there's enough people doing it that someone's going to be like, the teams won't buy it. I'm just selling it to the public.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for that in like 3 years.
Yeah, that is the next frontier there. But yeah, I don't have anything to say on these late guys. Just know that we'll get the blurbs on Josh Reynolds and Tim Patrick playing with the ones. Those are coming.
I'm sure it's already there. I'm sure Tim Patrick looks fully recovered from his 19th consecutive catastrophic summer-ending injury.
Man. Colts here. This is maybe a little outside the realm of the Puka Nacua stuff, so we can keep this pretty quick.
There's no Puka. There's no Puka.
Yeah, but I like Downs especially. Just bet on talent, late ADP. Pittman's probably a very good wide receiver, but maybe not a truly great one.
Crane, are you in a matrix chase right now? Like, are you going down the highway with Neo? What is going on?
There's some landscaping being done out back.
Yeah. A.D. Mitchell, good pick. Downs, good pick. Pittman, not.
If there's a Puka, it's Mitchell, right? He's sure, the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, high upside guy, some holes in the profile. Transfer, doing well in minicamp, right? Kind of the reverse Puka, where his flashes weren't yards per hour, and his yards per hour was horrible, but there were flashes. And then he's like got the chip on the shoulder.
There were more than flashes for A.D. Mitchell. He was a legit difference maker for multiple college football playoff teams.
Well, I'm just saying the efficiency was really bad, unlike Puka.
Yeah. A.D. Mitchell is a good player. I don't know if there are going to be enough passing attempts for the Colts for all these guys to be good picks, but A.D. Mitchell's a good pick, good player.
Let's move here to the Steelers. I think this one's interesting just because George Pickens is obviously good. Then after that, like the team seems to have forgotten that their second round pick, Roman Wilson, exists. So the beats are talking about Calvin Austin, Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller. I've been playing this one, again, not in the spirit of today's conversation, but I've been playing this one mostly through Freiermuth in the passing game in Pittsburgh. A tight end that had a very exciting rookie year, a prospect we liked. I think he showed enough to me early in his career that I'm willing to bet on sort of the later career breakout for him. And the depth chart, I don't know, like there's no one here. So barring a trade, I think Freiermuth is someone that could just eat a ton of targets this year. But curious what you guys think. Are you looking at any of these wide receivers, or do you agree on playing it through the tight end?
I do take Pickens now.
Yeah, I take Pickens now too. I don't have a ton of them every time. He's definitely on the Ridley trajectory where every time I'm like, okay, you know what? You guys are right. I should take more Pickens. And we're like,
he gets
great,
more expensive.
6 picks more expensive now. Not a little more, like a full half a round. So I can't. I'm still chasing on Pickens. Maybe I'll get there eventually. But you know where he was priced 3 weeks ago, I actually think was sharp, even though I didn't take him then.
So the Pickens thing to me can be explained like this, which is just like I've literally seen him do it. I just have literally already seen him do it. Just like to be the absolute guy you need. I loved him as a prospect. Like I've got him on a bunch of my because I've got him on a bunch of these dynasty teams because like number 1 overall recruit, weird college career, tore his knee, like came back too early probably. He also apparently interviewed horribly. Like Pickens and Mitchell both had these like awful personnel interviews where teams were just like the things people were that I was kind of hearing about AD Mitchell was like AD Mitchell was like the worst interview. Like he was just like coming in like thinking he already had accomplished all there was to accomplish, and kind of similar stuff for Pickens. But Pickens has that dog in him, and if you are of the persuasion that there are worse 18-round picks than Justin Fields, you set yourself up a very nice emergency backdoor there. Roman Wilson, I wish. I found one blurb on him from a radio guy, and the radio guy said he stinks. That he's like not doing good at these practices at all.
That doesn't seem good.
No, there was a whole article in The Athletic about him, and it was like how hard the wide receiver coach has been on him, and that's okay because he's willing to be coached. But it's like, and why is he being so hard on him? Can we get more into that?
Why does he need that much coaching?
Well, yeah, it sounds like he needs a lot of coaching. That doesn't seem so good. Reception perception, I don't think was particularly high on him. I remember thinking he and Pearsall were kind of similar as types, as sort of like bets, because they're both sort of slot guys and everything. But the reception perception on those guys was actually pretty different. Where Pearsall was like this legit route runner, and Wilson was more of like a speed slot guy. And then I don't know, like that doesn't seem maybe to be translating to the NFL super well so far. So. Yeah, I've gotten pretty nervous about Wilson. Calvin Austin's gotten some buzz. It's a bit tough to get excited about Calvin Austin, though. And even some of the stuff I was reading about him was like, he probably will be the wide receiver 2, but it's not going to be like in a traditional sense. So, like, he might,
Anytime I start hearing,
that sounds so bad in Arthur Smith offense. A non-traditional wide receiver 2.
It's like you better learn Scotty Miller, buddy.
Yeah. So I think Freiermuth is the way to play, and not one that I hadn't been taking a lot of Freiermuth. He wasn't very good last year, and he did flash before that, and now I'm not that excited about the offense from like a passing volume perspective, obviously. So. It's like, man, and then like, what if Darnell Washington gets some run? But the Darnell Washington hype doesn't seem that worrying as far as no. Is Freiermuth gonna run enough routes? It seems like he will. So I'm starting to warm up to Freiermuth as a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, didn't have a great season last year, but he still has a season on record of 22% targets per route run, 1.7 yards per route run in a sophomore year. So. Tight end stuff is just weird and non-linear and not easy to predict. I'm just willing to like make a talent bet on Freiermuth, even though it certainly hasn't been like a perfect run out to his early career.
Could easily be the number 2 target on this team. Easily.
Yeah.
I mean, we should assume that he is.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think we can have the structural debate later, but I do think elite tight end is a good strategy this year. But if you miss out, like the Bowers at pick 100 and then Freiermuth at pick 134 feels like a really fun way to counter that and still get that extra elite quarterback in the 40s, maybe get a Pacheco in the 40s instead of the elite tight end. I think that type of build is really exciting. Let's talk here about the Commanders. Somewhat interesting one here with Luke McCaffrey. I think he is the only Puka candidate that stands out here, but he's the
year 3 Hunter Renfrow, but in year 1.
Yeah,
but as a rookie.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of discount Puka, really.
I think he's a bad stylistic fit for Daniels, probably, who I thought was best at deep passing. I take all these guys. I take McLaurin, I take Dotson, I take McCaffrey, I take Sinnott, just because I take Commander. I want Daniels.
I want Daniels too. Let's see. I actually been making a point to take a bit more Daniels in the puppy too, the slows that I have going, because I'm only at 7% overall. But I'm not playing it through Dotson. That's the dude. I mean, this dude was, first of all, he was bad as a rookie. We all pretended he wasn't because he scored touchdowns, but he was bad. And then he wasn't a good prospect other than the draft capital. And then he was bad in his second year. So, like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. You got to give me a bigger discount than this. I've taken him a few times correlated with Daniels on these puppies, but I have currently 0%. I have $14 of Jahan Dotson in completed drafts. I can't get there. Luke McCaffrey, I like. He's the Brian Robinson is the guy I have the most of all the Commanders.
Yeah.
With the receivers, Luke McCaffrey, I have 15% of.
God, Brian Robinson is such the platonic ideal of a Sam Sherman player. There just couldn't be anyone more on brand.
He's like a smash right now. I'm at 17% on Brian Robinson. He's a good pick. Like they didn't get, what did they give Eckler in terms of money? Not much. And we all thought he was washed. And then Brian Robinson's just like hanging out, doing his thing. He was good last year. He then drops in price. They bring in a mobile quarterback who's going to specifically help his 2-down running style. He also showed some explosiveness in the passing game. He was consistent in the run game.
I don't disagree, but it is just the most Sam Sherman-esque pick.
Honestly, if Brian Robinson's name wasn't Brian Robinson, he would go in the 6th round, and you can't tell me otherwise.
If his name was Tank Bigsby, 5'6" turn.
5'6". Yeah. Brian Robinson just sounds like your buddy from college who works at Deloitte now, and you haven't really seen him in a couple years. Just too busy working. Doesn't get to hang out with the boys. It's just the most boring name ever.
You text him to see if he can golf on Saturday, and he texts back and says he has to ask his wife first, and you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Coming?
That's
this
Brian
guy's
Robinson.
name was Breece Gibbs, 3rd round pick.
Oh man, but yeah, I like Luke McCaffrey quite a bit. Again, I'm a sucker for these converted players. We've been over this, but like I want to throw this out there. Galaxy Brain. Jaden Daniels gets injured. How many games of Marcus Mariota is Cliff Kingsbury going to watch before he's like, let's give Luke McCaffrey a try at quarterback?
He was not even a league average. Like he was not even an average quarterback in Nebraska.
Hang on.
Like he was bad.
I have sometimes given Sam a little shit for not making really high upside cases. Okay. Luke McCaffrey playing quarterback for the Commanders is as an outbrain and as exciting of an upside case as I have ever heard.
Luke McCaffrey.
He's going to be the emergency quarterback on game day, right? If two guys get injured mid-game, he's got a full half of playing quarterback.
Oh my God. I need more. I'm at 15%. I should be at 20. This the slight possibility of Luke McCaffrey quarterbacking the Commanders.
Yeah.
Whew.
So Luke McCaffrey in college, his last season, the season that they convinced him to get benched, he had 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions, 2.8 adjusted yards per attempt. And then he decided maybe he would switch positions.
Okay, well
that's probably better than Marcus Mariota's stats last year in the Eagles.
6 interceptions on 76 attempts.
6.
That's so bad. Oh my God.
He needed another touchdown just to get to even.
Here's the deal. If you're drafting on FFPC, I would be careful about drafting McCaffrey as a wide receiver because you might end up with a 3rd quarterback.
He might play quarterback.
Yeah, he's a full fade on FFPC. You can't touch him. Nathan Peterman numbers. Yeah, still better than Tim Boyle's college stats. That's not even a joke. That
is not even a joke. That's true.
That's factual.
All right.
Oh God. Okay.
I'm still excited about come on. Anyway, we can get a couple extra touches.
Maybe just a Taysom Hill package for Luke McCaffrey. Maybe that's more realistic.
They have talked about him in the backfield, haven't they? Hasn't that come up?
Yeah. They're gonna use him on a trick play, like the same way the Patriots use Edelman on trick plays to throw the ball. There's definitely a Luke McCaffrey trick play.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude, think about it. They're gonna toss in the ball. He's gonna roll out. Jahan Dotson wide open in the corner. Sails over his head, bounces off his hands.
I think you meant Zach Ertz.
No,
Ben Sano just pass blocking lineup at fullback on that play. By the way,
the only thing I've read about Sinnott is that he is playing as an H-back thus far.
I have heard that.
Yeah, that seems bad.
All right, so bad. Dallas.
I'm still drafting.
Dallas is a good one. This is a good one here.
It's a good one, but what I'm worried about is that the offense might just like take a real step back. It probably won't, but like Ryan Flournoy, bro, he's 26. He was at Southeastern Missouri State.
Is that a Davis exaggeration, or is he actually 26?
I think he literally is 20. He might be 24. Yeah, he's 24.
He's turning 25 this season, though, so that's not that big of a lie.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
For me, a small lie.
Small lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Crane, do you even know what the deal is with Flournoy? I can't say I know anything about him.
I don't know that much about him, and honestly, I think Brooks is the guy. So one of the things of Puka, if we're looking for Pukas, is that it was a very uncomfortable click, at least for me, way too uncomfortable because I didn't click him nearly enough. But we're like, really, this guy? I don't know. That to me, I get that feeling pretty strongly with Brooks, but he's making noise. There's been some stuff of he's one of Dak's favorite targets. Jalen Tolbert is the guy ahead of him. Jalen Tolbert stinks.
I have bad news, Corain. You might just have this amnesia problem with the Cowboys. Jalen Brooks is not a rookie. Jalen Brooks was on the team last year.
Yeah, second-year player. No, I know that.
Now he fulfills the criteria.
It's the first year that Crane's heard of him, though.
It is the first year I've heard of him, but I did check.
He transferred from a D2 school to actually multiple D2 schools. Wingate to Tarleton State to South Carolina. He was denied eligibility for a little bit at South Carolina, so maybe that could explain a little bit of a late start. I find it weird that a team that was really struggling to find secondary pass catchers with Gallup and Tolbert being so bad that he didn't get any run last year.
But, I mean, spinning that in a bullish way, which, again, it's definitely a stretch.
I know it's hard for you to do.
The fact... God damn it. The fact that they didn't...
Well, actually, I should take that back. Very easy for you to spin up a positive thing for Jalen Brooks, an undrafted free agent who was on the practice squad. Very hard for you to be into T. Higgins. Very hard for you to spin the positive.
Well, buddy, I could have done
We're going to get another mystery player thing here in a second.
Dude, honestly, Jalen Brooks, yards per route run, higher than T. Higgins last year. Don't ask me how many routes he ran, but that is a fact.
I don't think Jalen Brooks played.
Yeah, no, he ran 33 routes last year. So this data is completely this is completely worthless data. But he had 1.9 yards per route run on 33 routes. Take it for what you want. But I mean, I don't know. I back to my original point, they literally went into the offseason and added nobody. They must have some, even if it's confidence in him as a wide receiver 4, they must have some confidence in these guys on the roster, or they're completely incompetent. And it could be
I wonder this organization, this organization that has continually not found a way to pay Dak Prescott market value. CD doesn't want to show up to camp because everyone else got his deal. You know how much money they cost themselves by not just getting this deal done?
Yeah.
When it was I don't think they're completely incompetent, but they're not competent.
Yeah. I don't know. He has been the guy getting some hype, though, relative to Flournoy, and that could obviously just be the incumbent bias. But I've seen people draft Flournoy in the 18th round. I haven't seen anybody draft Brooks. If I had to pick one right now, I would pick Brooks over Flournoy. I think the real answer is to wait a little bit longer before you make a call there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. To me, though, I was taking some Tolbert. He looked like early on, he's going to be the guy who's,
he was a good 18th round pick.
Good 18th round pick, correlated on Hurt stuff, or Dak stuff, that kind of thing. That's when I was taking him. I think I'd rather just take Brooks now if I was going to take one of these guys, because, and I'm not taking Brooks. I've literally never taken him, but I think I want the mystery box, and there's been a little bit of buzz about Brooks looking good and Dak throwing to him. I can't find, I literally read someone saying that he was one of Dak's favorite targets. I was just searching some athletic stuff, and I didn't find it, but I found, so I can't remember where I read that, but there is stuff if you just search the minicamp reports, Brooks's name comes up a decent amount. And it's he caught a pass from Dak, or he, the incompletion from Dak. So he's getting reps with the ones, partly because I guess Lamb's not there. But maybe he's using that opportunity to impress them enough to pass Jalen Tolbert, which isn't that high of a bar. So, if we look at Puka, right, it wasn't just Tutu. Van Jefferson was getting drafted in like the 160s or whatever, wherever he went. So having a guy who's like, we think gonna eat snaps, but then disappears was part of the Puka breakout. I mean, that Tolbert could be cover here for one of these guys. My bet would be Brooks over Flournoy, but this bears monitoring. I think this
it really does.
Situation really bears monitoring.
Because I thought you were going to say in this scenario that Cooks could be the Van Jefferson. I mean, we're talking about a 31-year-old wide receiver that flashed serious age cliff concerns the last 2 years. So that's why I find this one so exciting, is it's not just Tolbert that could be a zero, which I think he probably is, but Brandon Cooks is getting up there in age too.
That's true.
Again, I don't think like he's the worst pick, just because based on projection, I can totally see how you justify Cooks on occasion at pick 120. But yeah, I think this one is worth monitoring. Again, on Tolbert, why I prefer the mystery box in Brooks to Tolbert. Tolbert's run 350 routes in his NFL career, 0.8 yards per route run, 11% targets per route run. Like 340 routes is not like nothing. Like that's a decent amount of data on a guy. Not many guys run that many routes and are that inefficient and do much in their NFL careers. So yeah, the Tolbert one is only in stacks for me. I can stomach it, but even then, I don't really want to make that click too much.
No,
it's too early. Like the information is just too low.
Yeah. He's just not like. So okay, why do we like this particular situation? It's actually not very similar to the Rams last year.
No,
because you don't have CeeDee Lamb dealing with. Now, maybe the holdout is sort of the hamstring injury, so maybe it's more similar than I'm thinking. But CeeDee Lamb is still the dude. Like, he's in the true prime of his career. He's totally healthy. They're going to resolve this. He's going to get back out there. He's going to dominate targets in a way that, maybe we thought Cooper Kupp might last year, but he did it. So I think that we're really playing for a solid number 2 role or wide receiver 2 role. Right, but a guy needs to be good here to really make an impact. You need the guy to be talented, because it's not like it's so wide open. Ferguson's going to get decent target share. Cooks will get something. So we need a dude who can come in here and take targets. Tolbert is not that guy, and that's just where I was taking some of them correlated, and maybe he scores a touchdown in the right week or whatever, and that could be enough. But like, you are punting the chance to find a league winner when you take Jalen Tolbert. He just cannot. He's just not good enough. Like, maybe he gets better over the course of a couple years, but this year he's not going to come in here and make his presence felt. I just don't believe that. So that's where, if I was going to take one of these guys, I would just take the mystery box, even though Jalen Brooks is very likely a zero.
Saints are somewhat comparable situation. I'd say you have Olave as the clear number 1, a tight end in Juwan Johnson that should be some part of the offense if he's healthy. Rashid Shaheed, I'd say kind of similar to Cooks in the sense that he's a wide receiver 2, but a somewhat shaky wide receiver 2, obviously for different reasons than Cooks. I find this a little bit less exciting, though. I think you have a similar choice between the A.T. Perry bet on a second-year wide receiver who showed a little bit but was mostly pretty bad as a rookie, and then the complete mystery box in Bub Means. I think a 6th.
Bub Means could be real Puka energy. Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, Pitt, 1,500 total yards ever in college, 10 touchdowns in 5 seasons. I mean, Bub Means.
Craig, do you have any prospect notes on Bub Means? Is he someone you looked into at all?
Not really. Let me pull him up. He was not really high on my list.
Yeah. I think, looking at JJ's model, he was pretty low there. But again, yeah.
He actually has size, which is kind of interesting because A.T. Perry, I actually kind of liked him last year, and then he played a ton and just earned no targets. I mean, I think my answer looking at this might be Cedric Wilson plays more than we want him to, and Shaheed and Olave just get a lot more targets than they're being projected for.
I like Shaheed. He's risen a lot in price.
I like Shaheed.
He used to be, I think, a really good pick, and now he's just kind of fine if you need the receiver. But I mean, I think it's condensed. I still think Juwan Johnson is. I was going to say draftable, and I think he is draftable. But it's scary because with the foot injury, like, does he miss like the whole season ultimately? Like, does he get shut down? Like, he goes in the season, he missed a couple of weeks, and then they just like shut him down week 4, and he literally never plays. Like, we see that kind of stuff happen. But I think he's the answer of if he's healthy. Like, he's the clear number 3 in this offense now. Yeah. So I hope the foot injuries. I hope we get good news on the timeline for the foot injury, because I would be pretty psyched to draft him again in the 18th if his price doesn't rise on that good news.
Yeah, I've been taking Juwan in the 18th still. The reporting seemed to suggest that like he has a chance to recover for the start of the season. So I'm pretty sure he's not going to miss the whole year. I guess we just don't really know that, but I'm fine.
Foot surgery in the summer just scares me. I think you're right, but I just like want to hear like another good report. And I was pretty overweight Juwan too. So that's I'm coming from someone who already had a bag of them, and now I'm like, let me cool off during the very riskiest part of this. But I would like to draft him again because I think he's probably he's going to beat out A.T. Perry for targets if he's on the field.
Yeah. Giants here. We talked about this one last week, so we can maybe keep it quick. But I think we were basically all in agreement that Wandale, Slayton, and Hyatt are all solid late round picks. I think I'm not really in on Wandale, but you guys are. And I think everyone was kind of in on Slayton and Hyatt, if I recall correctly. There's no tight end here. So
yeah, they're all good picks.
Statistically, like one of these receivers has to be good. They have interesting profiles for different reasons. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything here. Otherwise, I think we can move on this one.
I'm not that in on Wandale. I would say, Slayton is. You've got your Dortch, you got your Slayton. Those are the two guys that you're getting to the end of the draft, and your wide receiver 4 is Rashee Rice. Your wide receiver 3 is Rome Odunze, or Xavier Worthy if you're Davis, and you're like, I need some help to get like production early in the season. Slayton, I think, is a pretty strong pick. Like he just is a starting wide receiver available for free in the final rounds.
Agreed. He got paid like this offseason, so I don't know. Darius Slayton is just going to catch 50 passes for 800 yards and 5 TDs every season until he retires, and he's just going to go at pick 205 every single season. It's just how
the way it is, baby.
Slayton.
He had a spike week last year in the playoffs.
Yeah. You know who else had a spike week in the playoffs last year? Wandale, 19.7 underdog points in week 17. People forget.
That's true.
So for the Jets, it's Corley is like an amazing pick. The issue is he's not a Puka. He was a 3rd round pick. He's not a Puka at all. The thing that ADP has wrong is Mike Williams. Mike Williams is just going too high. I don't think I have any Mike Williams.
Yeah, I was taking him, and then I was like, what am I doing? I kind of woke up from the... I just shouldn't have been taking him.
I don't mind Mike Williams.
What's the path to success? He just catches. He's James Jones.
It's just it's just that Mike Williams has been like so good the last 3 years, and like I don't know. I guess
torn ACL. I just was not factoring in the torn ACL at his age enough.
Yeah, but like he's not that old. I feel like people in their heads think Mike Williams is like 33 years old. Like he's like what, 29?
Yeah, but that's a big and this is like with the stuff last year with Brees, like diving into the ACL stuff, if you're 22 and you tear your ACL, and if you're 25 and you tear your ACL, like that might not seem like a big difference, but like the literature on that, there's like a big difference. Then you're for 29, I imagine it's a big difference. Like
he's also been hurt like a billion times. Like he's had multiple lower body injuries. Like it's like
He also turns 30 in October, so he's even a little older than we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like 30 is not. I get the ACL stuff, but I don't know. I think the discount is for like early season. I know it's weird to think about this for like a veteran wide receiver, but I kind of interpret the discount for Mike Williams as like bad early season production. Like we don't think he's a full-time player by the playoffs. And this is a guy last 3 seasons in the NFL, 2.0, 1.9, 2.3 yards per out run. I just don't think he's like that bad of a pick. I guess I don't get like what the heat is at pick 120 ADP. Like he's a better NFL wide receiver than, I don't know, a lot of the guy. Like if he's healthy, he's a better NFL wide receiver than like a lot of the wide receivers going near him.
He was, it's just tough. Like coming off the torn ACL, like we see guys fall off. Like remember like Sterling Shepard?
What's the difference between Mike Williams and DJ Shark?
Dude, come on.
Now the chat said that, and I am thinking cromulent comparison.
Yeah, he's not my favorite. I'm not saying like I'm hammering Mike Williams, but I don't know. I clearly disagree. Let's get back to Corley. Are you guys not a little bit spooked by like? No. It's kind of similar to the Steelers stuff.
Am I worried?
Yeah,
I'm not.
Okay. It's probably dumb to be worried about Xavier Gibson. That is what I guess we should add context. That's what the beats are saying right now.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about the Corley stuff.
Yeah.
So the consensus coming out of the minicamp stuff was like, pads aren't on yet, and when pads are on, this guy's a tackle breaker. So maybe we'll see it then. Like I don't want to hear that. This is like supposed to be pure optimism. We're all just drinking from the fountain of optimism, and where we got to wait till pads come on till we can be optimistic about Corley. Made me a little nervous.
Yeah, he's gonna come in really raw as a route runner. I do think he'll be like a guy that schemed a lot of screens, and then maybe he can emerge to being sort of like an underneath slot wide receiver, yak guy. But yeah, I think he's gonna be really raw. I don't have any hot takes on 170 ADP. Like to me, it just seems like
it's Randall Cobb, dude. You don't even have to close your eyes and imagine. You've seen this movie before.
Yeah, but like, Cobb clicked with Rodgers in multiple ways. They're like best friends. So like we're not getting those reports yet with Corley that he, is looking like that he's establishing that connection. It's not purely a safety blanket kind of role because a lot of it is schemed, but I don't know. I want to hear that he has that role locked down and he's looking good in it.
Yeah.
Like, frankly, it's not the highest upside role. Like if it's like, hey, yeah, we're gonna have to scheme you up these like Randall Cobb hybrid touches. Like I would really like to know for sure you're getting those because it's not like I would rather bet on a guy who I think is just a good NFL receiver that's going to come in and be able to establish himself in a traditional way. Corley, I don't really think is that guy.
I don't think it doesn't sound like he is. I think it's going to be a leap. These small school guys that like didn't really play true wide receiver in college generally take more time. But yeah, again, not a film watcher, but you watch Corley's highlights. It's not hard to see how his yak ability could translate to the NFL, and that could certainly show up later in the season.
I've been kind of experimenting with the take in my head and never voiced it. Remember how like Amon-Ra last year in high stakes drafts, like when we got to Vegas and everything, and it's like, all right, let's stop dicking around. We got the 104. I'm taking Amon-Ra. We got the 105. I'm just taking Amon-Ra. Are we going to get there with Garrett Wilson?
No.
Or like by the end of the summer, people are just
the
like,
opposite.
I'm not. Okay.
Pushing Wilson up too high is slappy behavior. That is trying to make the fancy play. Like if you ever take Garrett Wilson over Justin Jefferson, come on, dude.
I think we're gonna get that. I think
I got
my one pick. I got my high stakes draft. I'm putting my stamp on this team. This is the guy. I think you're getting it. I think you're getting Garrett.
I mean,
Wilson.
we don't want to admit it, but there's massive Ohio State bias in the fantasy football space. No one wants to talk about it, but these Ohio State guys,
true. That's definitely true.
People have hives around these guys, and I I think Garrett Wilson is a totally fine pick at pick 11. I think it's fancy play syndrome to take him over the AJ Brown, the Puka Nacua. Like,
it's one
to
of
me,
the
I just don't get
it's
it.
one of the fanciest plays.
Yeah,
I think we're not gonna the idea that you would like even hesitate. These are not the players we're going to be talking about. It's going to be Amon-Ra and Justin Jefferson by the end of the summer because we're going to be because look, Corley's not. It doesn't look like Corley's doing it. We're getting cold feet on Mike Williams and his ability to play right away, and we know Rodgers will just feed a dude. By the way, this whole thing where Rodgers had an unexcused absence, we are literally not going to remember that happened by the time it's September.
Until November.
Yeah.
Careful. The people in the comments did not like the Aaron Rodgers discussion. Let's table this one. The comment
But in
section's gonna go off
September, we
again.
will have forgotten. Early September, we'll have forgotten because it was excused in the sense that they knew he was doing. You're just not allowed. Like literally, you can't excuse an absence that's not injury related for mandatory minicamp. So the whole thing, it's a non-story. So anyway, by the way, one of the guys who's in on the Ohio State bias is Matt Harmon. He charted 96th percentile success rate versus man.
Yeah.
No one
think
doubts
so.
Garrett Wilson is good. He just has a not good surrounding. Like his quarterback is a 40-year-old podcaster with a torn Achilles.
With the long history of only throwing to the one guy that he likes, which sounds
No, I mean, I
like
think
Garrett Wilson.
I think he's gonna be good. Like, I'm not saying you don't take Garrett Wilson. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't argue with you if you wanted to take Garrett Wilson at 6, but not over Jefferson.
Well, listen, this isn't just to be clear. I'm not saying he should go over Jefferson. I don't like taking him over Puka. I don't like taking him over Brown. But I'm not getting very much with that stance. Like I'm getting like 6-7% because people do take him over those guys, and I hate it. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this dude by the end of the summer is going to go 106, maybe even 105. Like I'm going to get not enough, and then he's going to have a 33% target share from Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is just like, I'm going to throw it to you after I snap it, and then he does.
I just realized we have a whole other slide to do. I might have to bow out. I didn't clear out 3 hours for this show.
we gotta stop. We gotta stop the Aaron Rodgers talk. Let's move on to the Cardinals. We'll get through these ones quickly. Actually, let's get to the ones that are more interesting for finding the Puka types. I think I
think there are 2 real Puka types on this list. I think one of them, unironically, Greg Dortch or Michael Wilson. Whoever the winner of is behind is the wide receiver 2 for Arizona. You can get differing opinions on who that will be. And Devontae Walker is a really, really
that's
good
a good
answer
one.
for this.
That's a really good one.
Because it's just such a weak wide receiver depth chart. Again, you have this list here. Why these guys are less interesting to me is because on all these offenses, you also have the presence of an elite tight end. We can debate who's elite and who's not to the end of this world, but there's really highly drafted tight ends on all these teams. So Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers there, it makes it a little bit harder for someone to emerge because their ceiling is probably the 3rd target earner, but I still really like Walker here. You know, Bateman, we kind of know the story with Bateman. He's really disappointed through 3 years in the NFL. Walker, a very imperfect prospect, but enough flashes there that he could be really exciting. So, yeah, I really like this bet.
Yeah, and he's super cheap, and I like Walker as a bring back on the Houston stuff. If you're doing that, which I do a decent amount of, even if you're stacking without the quarterbacks, I like him as a bring back. And I like a high upside downfield skill set.
It's the downfield skill set with Lamar that's so appealing.
It's so appealing. It's appealing for best ball. It's appealing for a single week. It's a single week play, especially if it's a bring back on Stroud, right? You're just like, I just hope Devontae Walker can literally not play a single game, but if he scores a touchdown on week 17, that's amazing. So I think Walker's a really strong, maybe not candidate to be Puka, but he's just a good pick.
Yeah, maybe more like Wicks level, like fantasy production with hopefully more like spike weeks. I really like him. Only other one I wanted to throw out here, again, this is like not someone I'm taking, but on the monitoring list, Casey Washington getting some hype at OTAs. I don't really think Darnell Mooney or Rondale Moore are very good.
No, take the Rondale Moore slander back. Take it back.
I'll take it back. But I was also going to say I'm not sure if Kyle Pitts is very good.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying.
I was wondering why you took the Rondale Moore slander back with such little fight, but it was to save a bullet.
It was to save some slander.
It was to save a bullet in the chamber. Yeah, I couldn't get away with both. But I don't know, man. Like this team is gonna probably lead the NFL in pass attempts if things go as planned. There's room here behind Drake London if some of these other things don't work out with some questionable, I guess we can say, profiles behind them. So just a guy worth monitoring for me. Anyone else on this list people want to just like throw out as
let me just do my Greg Dortch propaganda real quick. It'll take like 10 seconds. So in games that Greg Dortch has played 70% of snaps or more, he basically has had at least 9 PPR points in all of them, which doesn't sound like much. It's pretty good. And he's had 3 100-yard games. He scored a touchdown in 3 of those 9 games. I mean, Greg Dortch is obviously not this great player. There's a reason why he only has 11 games, I think, of 71% or more snaps. But if the whole Arizona thing comes together with Harrison in there, Kyler's healthy, the running backs, they have the Thunder and Lightning thing. I mean, Dortch is the perfect slot guy to go in there with Wilson and Harrison being on the exterior. And I think without Zay Jones having signed here, we would have gotten some pretty steady drumbeat on Greg Dortch. But, I mean, obviously, I'm a slappy. He's not going to be Puka, but he's like a pretty cromulent Wan'Dale simulator for Arizona.
Yeah. Only thing I want to add quickly in Arizona is that Michael Wilson, I think his rookie season was a little underrated. The story was basically pretty not great target earning, but pretty good in yards per route run. So he's very efficient on a per target basis. I just think there's something there. Again, I don't think we're definitely not talking like a Puka level hit, but in terms of just like correlated guy with Kyler Murray, I actually think that the team probably believes in Michael Wilson a good amount. So people are overreacting to the Zay Jones stuff. He got like $1 million guaranteed. That's like nothing.
He's backing receiver. Up. He's the Michael Wilson backup.
Well, you know what the comp is for Michael Wilson? Zay Jones.
Yeah.
He's the Zay Jones from 2 years ago when he actually hit, where he very clearly had a role on the outside. They didn't have a lot else to throw to. And he had, hopefully and he's priced at a level where if he has a spike week in week 16, like hell yeah. That's more than enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Just betting on touchdowns with him. All right, that'll wrap things up. Final question here. Let's like answer the question we started with a little bit. Let's say of all these wide receivers, let's say going past pick 180. So guys like Devontae Walker, Javon Baker, Jalen Brooks, all these guys would qualify. Who is your guys' favorite bet to say be a top 20 wide receiver by half point PPR?
Brendan
Not saying
Rice.
It's likely to happen, but best bet.
Brendan Rice.
All right.
Javon Baker.
That would have been my 2.
I was going to say Javon Baker. If I have to say someone else, if Troy Franklin qualified, he's going.
You put it at 180. I was going to say Franklin. You put it at 180.
All right, I'm taking Luke McCaffrey for the Taysom Hill.
That's a good one
in Washington.
That's a good one.
All right, what are we doing for the ADP game?
Let's do the same game we always do. Favorite ADP riser can be one of these guys we talked about. I don't think the bet on any. I will say before we get into this, I don't think the bet on any of these guys is that they're going to be ADP risers. Like rookies that are buried on depth charts are more likely to have negative buzz than positive buzz, to be honest. And even if there is positive buzz, people don't generally pay attention to too much. So, but yeah, feel free to pick one of those guys or pick whoever.
I got one. I might have already taken him. I don't think I did, though. I'm going to take Curtis Samuel. I think the market has already shown they're kind of regretting drafting so much Dalton Kincaid, and they're kind of sheepishly walking that back a little bit. And there also is going to become an inflection point where the Bills coaching staff continues to not say anything nice about Keon. We played the clip on the show last week, and they were like, yeah, Keon can't really block, and running routes doesn't seem that good, and his hands aren't great, but he is showing up and working hard every day. And
he's a great guy.
Great guy.
He's funny.
Yeah, very funny. So I think we will see Samuel go up, Coleman come down, and maybe even see Shakir go down a little bit. But I think Samuel will flip in Coleman at some point.
I love the Curtis Samuel stuff, so no pushback from me on that.
Curtis Samuel back with Brady. That's not even a big narrative yet. Chat just mentioned that. Pretty big.
Crane, you got one? Otherwise, I got one.
No, go for it. I gotta figure mine out. All
right, I'm gonna take a risk here. I'm calling bottom on Kyren Williams. This isn't even a guy that I particularly love.
This is pretty risky because Corum keeps going up.
Yeah, I just think like we're getting close to people coming back into draft rooms, in later in July and August after not paying attention to fantasy football all offseason and just being like, what the hell are we doing? Like Kyren Williams was the second best player in fantasy last year on a per game basis. He's going at pick 31. I'm taking him in the middle of the second round. Like, what the hell are these nerds doing? So I think he's, unless there's more bad injury news, which is possible, I understand that's a risk. I just think the August drafters are not letting Kyren get to pick 30.
Yeah, I like it.
Not even saying I love him at pick 30. It's purely a ADP prediction.
I'm going to go Zamir White, who I've been starting to take a fair amount of. I thought he would steam up. Sacrilegious.
People got so mad at me when I said I didn't have any of him.
Yeah, that makes me feel good about this pick then. Sacrilegious, when we first were transitioning from the big board, identified him as a guy that would probably steam up, and we wanted to get ahead of that. That didn't really happen, but I think it partly didn't happen because there was so much wide receiver steam just generally, and kind of everyone.
That's a good point.
It's like Christian Watson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Deontay Johnson, like that whole group had to come up. And all these running backs have kind of just fallen into this big bucket, and you kind of pick the guy who's there, and no one puts too much thought into which ones, which kind of makes sense structurally in this environment. But as the environment changes and we're forced to like pick which one of these guys we want, and then maybe try to get a wide receiver in the 8th, there might be wide receivers in the 8th and 9th round again in August or September. I think that White is a good candidate to be one of the guys who rises potentially substantially because Alexander Madison is his primary competition for early down touches, and we know he's not good. They're talking him up as like the bell cow. He's going to be very projectable. And then Dylan Laube, might be the passing down guy.
Careful.
But maybe he doesn't play that much, and maybe we don't think he's going to play that much.
He's probably listening to this show right now.
He's made some, he's had some buzz. Like I think Laube's not nothing, but like even if White is just the clear cut 2-down guy here, and they're talking about running their offense through him, he's not going to go at 88.
Yeah, you are totally right about it. It's really just. Yeah, he's going to end up kind of going like 10 picks higher, 15 picks, kind of like where Rashad White and Ken Walker go. I think you're probably right.
He could go 20 picks higher.
Yeah.
Crane, has he been one of the guys you've watched the film on in the cut-ups?
I have.
Dude, I don't know anything about watching film, but I did some of that too, and I think he looks kind of good.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
He's not dynamic. He just is like big and strong.
He's big. He gets moving. He seems fine.
And again,
he seems fine.
Same college team as James Cook, and he outproduced him from a rushing perspective in college.
And he was the number one running back recruit coming into college, tore both ACLs before I ever saw the college field. But then he ran.
They recruited him. He was there with Chubb too, right? Or am I mixing up backfields?
I don't think so.
There was another guy. There was another guy with Cook and White at some point.
Yeah, maybe early in his career. Let me look this up.
Doesn't
I don't
matter.
think they overlapped, but I could be wrong.
Chubb is absolutely not it.
Okay.
Chubb is like 30. DeAndre Swift is
DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
God damn, I'm old, bro. Nick Chubb was there like 9 years ago.
Kenny Mack.
Anyway, I don't want to pay for like projectable volume on the, a pretty, like he didn't have a good college career, but at one point he was seen as great, and then he ran well, and then the coach is talking him up. So it's like, it's all a bet that makes me very, very nervous in the 4th or 5th round. But it's like, What if we just double that ADP? Are you in now? And turns out, yes, I am. That's how I'm feeling. I'm actually drafting a decent amount of them now.
Great. I like that one too. All right. That'll do it for today's show. You really got to struggle for topics in July when there's literally no NFL news. Just give us some news next week, please.
Sorry for this being so brief.
Yeah. Sorry we didn't really have much to talk about this week.
Yeah. But anyways, Davis, I saw you had a big announcement today. You want to tell people about that and what else you have coming up?
Yep. Underdog partnership is happening. Official Underdog influencer YouTube streams are going to start tomorrow. So be ready for that. It's coming down. I got one more announcement coming tomorrow, but it's not quite ready yet. So we'll
you going to spend those influencer 101s on Justin Jefferson?
No, but influencer 103s I might.
Crane, Sidekick's been out about a week now. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Check out the Sidekick, legendaryupside.com/sidekick. Dynamic best ball rankings. Sacrilegious just had an article out on Saturday looking at week 16 correlation, kind of diving into why week 17 correlation still looks to be king, but week 16 correlation is intriguing. And just kind of making a case for just regular old team stacking as being underrated at this point. So check that out. I'm working on.
It's fine to take 3 Chiefs without Mahomes per Sacrilegious.
Honestly, yeah, I think it is.
Let's go.
How many times do I have to read the name KJ Osborne in that article from Sacrilegious?
He just peppers it in there throughout.
Okay, great.
So yeah, I'm working on an article. This Garrett Wilson idea kind of had me think about guys who I'm not taking a ton of, but I like that I'm now worried will move up, and then I'll be like, this is dumb. Kyle Pitts is actually one of them where I don't have a ton of Kyle Pitts, and I'm like, he's going to flip Mark Andrews, and I'm just going to be furious about it. But then I'm not.
God, is that really going to happen?
It's going to happen.
I'm going to be so mad.
Give it a month. It's going to happen. Yeah. So it's me pre-tilting stuff and then explaining why I probably am going to take more of the guy that I wasn't taking before because I don't want to be extremely mad later.
Fair. That's
awesome.
Fair.
That's fair. Well, awesome. Everyone check all that stuff out. We'll be back next week. Obviously regular ship chasing show on Thursday is when you guys are doing those now, right?
No, I think because of the 4th, I think we're taking this week off because of the 4th.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, we'll be back here on this feed next Monday. Peace, everyone.